Hello, and welcome to Leading Without Limits Program Kickoff. My name is Brooke Schiller, and I am Principal Partner, Facilitator, Keynote Speaker, Coach, and Consultant of Insight Partners Consulting. Recently, I was traveling through the San Francisco airport, and I went to order a latte, and I realized a robot was going to be making it for me. And that was an aha moment. And then I did a little bit more research and found from the World Economic Forum report that 85 million jobs will be displaced and 97 million new jobs will be created by 2025. That's not long from now. And it was a pretty eye-opening piece of information. As I kept digging, I learned from LinkedIn workplace data that learning and development professionals agree that upskilling and reskilling is a top priority. And internal mobility is more of a priority now than even before COVID-19. I found this great quote that echoes this theme, and it is, "My biggest advice is lead. Don't wait for someone else to tell you to lead. Lead. Lead proactively. If not now, then when? If not us, then who? This is our time. Let's make a big impact." From Lena Nair, the CHRO of Unilever. So that brings me to the concept of leading without limits. What is Leading Without Limits? It is a scalable program built on a foundation of 7 skills. These are skills that over my 25 years in the learning and development business, I have found repeatedly pop up and show their importance. We'll start in no particular order, but I do have a bias for self-awareness. I think that is the root of the tree. We'll talk about resilience in this program, curiosity, nuanced thinking, inspiration and motivation, initiative and accountability, and dialogue. 7 skills, again, are human skills that show up repeatedly, not only in research and journals, academic journals, but in the classroom, and the classrooms, whether they are in person or virtual, in my work as a facilitator and coach. So it's about human skills. Everywhere we go, we are hearing this. And we have transitioned, or we're in the midst of a transition from the muscle. There was a period of time when leadership meant just getting it done. A little bit of management in there, just making it happen by sheer will. Then we moved into a period where we were thinking about it a lot, being very analytical about leadership. And that's what the brain signifies: thinking, processing, theories, models. And today we're at what I call the heart stage of leadership, all about human skills. And I don't want to send the message that one of these is more important than the other. They need all to be present in concert, so that each of us can be the best leader we can be. So I mentioned the 7 skills that are part of the Leading Without Limits program, and here they are. And as I mentioned, these were gleaned from many years in the classroom, and these are skills that anyone can develop and practice and use. They don't require a manager to lead the way. All they require is that we all do them. Leaders at all levels, or leading at all levels, is about personal leadership. And imagine a world, just for a moment, imagine, close your eyes and think about a world where everyone on your team, regardless of their title or their role, was demonstrating these skills. Seems like a pretty awesome world to me, if I don't say so myself. So how does the Leading Without Limits program work? It is modular in nature. And yes, we are here. We are at the program kickoff where I'll set the tone for what the rest of the program is about and invite you to visit again and go through each of the modules and any order you would like. But you'll see each of the modules is modular, 2 hours in length, and in between each module is an opportunity for you to get on-demand coaching and application. Each of these modules will be made available, obviously live, but also in an online format, just like this, so you can download and learn on your own. But if you're interested in more support, coaching is an aspect of this program that I'd love to engage with you on. So we can work one-on-one or in a group setting to coach and help you apply what you learn in the modules. So with that being said, I am introducing something radical, an evolution of a new approach. I mentioned earlier about the astonishing number of jobs that will be displaced or new jobs that will be created in a very short period of time. And yet, we continue to put people on or feel like we're on a career ladder. And typically, leadership development of the past, or maybe even in the current state, holds back leaders at all levels and those who employ them by tricking them into believing that leadership is a title, that leadership requires managing people, and only leaders need to possess certain skill sets. Well, I don't know about you, but I've climbed the ladder. I've gotten to the top, and the view from the top is not that satisfying. It is for some, but it isn't the only route to go. But as long as we keep saying that development is up and to the right, or up is the only way, or we put our belief in this ladder, what that does, and I've seen it in my real world experience, is all the responsibility is on the people manager, really disenfranchising individual contributors from their internal power and leaving folks on the tech track wondering where they fit in. Everything we know about performance management and career progression is designed around this model. And it is only the innovative forward thinkers who are starting to question this, or maybe they've started to question it, but there is not another program out there in the market that is really saying, let's set that aside and rethink leadership development. So rather than thinking about it like a ladder, let's think about it like a rock climbing exercise. When you think about rock climbing, you are going up, down, side to side, diagonal. There are lots of opportunities and ways to get where you want to go. For some of us, that might mean the top of that mountain. For others, it might be an experience in a different area that will require a different set of skills and a different set of moves. One thing I noticed though, and for those rock climbers out there, I would say you probably know is true, when you're rock climbing and you're moving in all these directions, not only are you growing and developing, but you are developing core strength. When you are rock climbing your career, you are optimizing your impact. So when you optimize your impact, organizations win because they experience all the upticks and all the levers: sales growth, organizational efficiencies, less regrettable turnover, higher attraction and retention rates. When you optimize your impact, you contribute more fully because you have the freedom to broaden your view of career and growth and development, and you can lead from an authentic place. And you increase your agility, like that rock climber, by upskilling for current known needs and future unknown needs. Another reason why the ladder really doesn't work, because we could get to the top of that ladder and realize either it's not what I thought it was going to be, or the thing I was searching for or climbing to is gone. It's been displaced, rethought, eliminated. So now that we've set the tone for this evolution of thinking about leadership, I'm going to introduce a few key concepts that are at the core that we need to start practicing before we can dive in to each of the 7 skill modules. Perhaps you have heard of the term or the phenomenon Ikigai. The concept of Ikigai is said to have evolved from the basic health and wellness principles of traditional Japanese medicine. This medical tradition holds that physical well-being is affected by one's mental, emotional health, and sense of purpose in life. Japanese psychologist Michiko Kumano, 2017, has said that Ikigai is a state of well-being that arises from devotion to activities one enjoys, which also brings a sense of fulfillment. Now, it's important to note that Ikigai does not typically refer only to one's personal purpose and fulfillment in life, without regard to others or society at large. In fact, Ikigai has usually been cited as both a personal pursuit and one of benefit to others. In the end, Ikigai brings meaning, purpose, and fulfillment to your life, while also contributing to the good of others. So let me pause there and equate this concept of Ikigai back to your leadership prowess and the leader you want to be in the world. So let's walk through each of the elements of Ikigai one by one. We'll start with you love it. This sphere includes what we do or experience that brings us the most joy in life and makes us feel most alive and fulfilled. Some examples might be sailing, writing poetry, rock climbing. Other things from a leadership or a more work-related idea or concept are public speaking, coaching, mentoring others. The second section on the right is called The World Needs It. Oh, I'm sorry. The world needs it. And the world here might be humanity as a whole, a small community you are in touch with, or anything in between. What the world needs might be based on your impressions or needs expressed by others. The world's needs might also include things like, just some examples, skilled nursing, clean water, home heating. Okay, so those are some ideas in the big world that we live in. But what else does the world need? I might say the world needs me coaching, helping others, mentoring, sharing my experiences to a larger audience. When you look at the third element on the bottom, it says what you are paid for. This dimension of the diagram also refers to the world or society at large, in that it involves what someone else is willing to pay you or what the market will bear. You might be passionate about writing poetry or very good at rock climbing, but this does not necessarily mean you can get paid for it. Same for me. If I'm passionate about leadership and training and coaching, what the market will bear and what the world will pay for it is a critical aspect. There's a lot of factors that go into what you are paid for. And for some of you, it might mean or equate to salary. Others might, what you're paid for might be a different kind of currency, but I encourage you to think about that. And then last but not least, what you are great at. This sphere includes anything you're particularly good at, such as skills you've learned, hobbies you've pursued, talents you've shown since an early age. What you're good at might, again, include some of the similar examples I shared before: playing the piano, being empathetic, public speaking, sports, brain surgery, you name it. And where those domains converge, that is what we call Ikigai. And it is your reason for being. Those are the 4 initial elements or components. But then let's start looking at the intersection of these. The intersection of what you love and what you're good at is your passion. The intersection of what you love and what the world needs is your mission. At the intersection of what the world needs and what you can get paid for is your vocation. And at the intersection of what you're good at and what you could get paid for, that's your profession. And again, that sweet spot within this Ikigai diagram would therefore involve everything you're passionate about, that you're good at, that the world needs now, and for which someone will pay you. So I'll tell you a little story. I'm a contributor to a book called Voices of the 21st Century. And I also share this book or this story in the book that will be coming out in February, where my last job, internal in-house, I was at a small software company. I thought I had reached the pinnacle of my career, but there were a lot of factors that were off. I won't go into all the details, but I realized one day, with the help of my spouse, that I was getting paid for something and I knew the world needed it. But because of the environment I was in, I didn't love it anymore. And that also contributed to my ability, or how great I was at it, to diminish. So it's just a personal, vulnerable example of how if these things aren't in harmony, you will start to notice it. And I encourage you to pay attention to that, because what we're striving for is, what's your sense of belonging from a leadership perspective? When you're thinking about who you want to be in the world of work as a leader, as a personal leader, what does that look like? So for this activity, you're going to do this on your own, but I'd like you to think about how you would fill this diagram out. Complete the 4 quadrants of Ikigai from a work perspective. It may help you to start out with personal first to get the hang of it, and then start thinking about it from a work or leadership perspective. Complete the 4 quadrants of Ikigai and discuss with a partner. A partner could be your spouse, significant other, best friend, you name it, an accountability partner at work, which, by the way, I encourage you to find, especially if you want to continue this work and go through the remaining modules, because having an accountability partner helps bring it to life. And this list is always a work in progress. And if you wish, you can add things, you can tweak things, you can come back and revisit it as things come up for you along the way. So let's transition now into a conversation about authentic, what I call authentic leadership. And in order to really build out what is authentic for you from a personal leadership standpoint, let me introduce to you what I call your leadership playlist. Why do I call it this? Because we all have them. We have our playlists that we've curated that bring around a certain vibe or a way we want to feel. And we know we can go to that playlist and get exactly what we came for. And when we think about a playlist from a leadership standpoint, it starts at the core. It starts with values. So it's going to ask you to look internally, ask yourself, what are my values? What are my values that transcend both work and personal? Because you're one person, and to be the authentic you, your values transcend. They're not certain values at work or certain values at home. The next thing we'll look at in each and every one of these modules is mindset. What does an effective or productive leadership mindset look, feel, and sound like? The third component is skill set. And the 7 skills are the skill set that we're going to be learning and helping you expand your learning around that. And then from there, for each one of the 7 skills, we'll be looking at behaviors and habits. And I'll say more about those 2 things and how they interrelate here in just a few minutes. So this is how each module is built. It's the kickoff today. We'll be looking at values, mindset. And then we'll start practicing behaviors and habits. And then as we come back, as you come back to each one of these modules, there will always be a behavior and habit component within that you will build out. So at the completion of each module, you will have some habits that you can start practicing right away to help you develop each of the 7 skills. So in order to get started on values, there are many values instruments out there online for free that you can go and you can experiment with. Maybe you have a worksheet handy or a values worksheet that someone gave you at some point in your past. Or maybe you already know what they are. You can name them without using an instrument. That's what I'm going to ask you to do. Brainstorm your own values and choose 10 that resonate with you. Now, you don't have to get to 10. Don't worry about that, because the next step is I'm going to ask you to prioritize and get to 5. So if you get to 10, great. But then I'm going to ask you to reel it in and bring it down to 5 of your most important values. And you might see that a couple of your values might fold in on each other or can easily be combined in a themed sort of way. And once you've gotten down to your top 5 values, again, find that partner and discuss what those are and what each of the values on your list means to you. A couple of mine, just to share some examples, are authenticity and freedom. And I thought a lot about the difference between freedom and independence. And I landed on freedom because I need connection, but I also need freedom and flexibility to do things the way I'd like to do them, the ability to flex, open up my ideas to different ways. So that's very different than independence. Independence really relies on or has a cornerstone of working on your own. And that's not me, but freedom is. So that's your exercise. Brainstorming your values, whittling it down to 5, and then really thinking about what those values means to you. Next, we'll look at mindset. Mindsets are leaders' mental lenses that dictate what information they take in and use to make sense of and navigate the situations they encounter. Simply, mindsets drive what leaders do and why. For example, they explain why 2 different leaders might encounter the same situation and process and respond to it very differently. One might see, well, let me give you an example. So let's say you have a disagreement with a colleague. One leader might see the situation as a threat that hinders their authority, another as an opportunity to learn and further develop. So that gives you a little example of what I mean by mindset. And there are several mindsets that if we can practice adopting them as personal leaders, we will be better off. The first you've probably heard of, growth versus fixed mindset. A growth mindset is a belief that people, including oneself, can change their talents, abilities, and intelligence. Conversely, those with a fixed mindset do not believe that people can change their talents, abilities, and intelligence. And I struggle with this a little bit because I do find in my own personal experience that sometimes I get frustrated in learning a new thing. But does that mean that I stop and I don't try it? That's not really a fixed mindset. That means let me examine why I'm getting frustrated and let's see if I can continue to grow and push through it. The next mindset we'll talk about is learning versus performance. A learning mindset involves being motivated toward increasing one's competence and mastering something new. A performance mindset involves being motivated toward gaining favorable judgments or avoiding negative ones about one's competence. So I shared a little, I went from growth mindset to learning in my example. So how can I increase my confidence? How can I master something new versus always seeking favorable comments or judgments from other people? The next one we'll talk about is deliberative versus implemental. Leaders with a deliberative mindset have a heightened receptiveness to all kinds of information as a way to ensure that they think and act as optimally as possible. Leaders with an implemental mindset, as the name suggests, are more focused on implementing decisions, which closes them off to new and different ideas and information. And finally, positive mindset compared to preventative mindset. Leaders with a positive mindset are focused on progress. They identify a specific purpose, goal, or destination and prioritize making progress toward it. Leaders with a prevention mindset, however, are focused on avoiding losses and preventing problems at all costs. So we're all going to be somewhere on the range of all of these 5 different sets of mindsets. Realistically, we're not all going to be in the blue moving forward all the time. I know I'm not. But with this awareness about being in a growth, a learning, a deliberative, and a positive mindset, I can build that into my day. I can build habits around it so that that's where I'm spending the bulk of my time. And then I can recognize when I'm not there and I can bring myself back on track. So with that being said, we've talked about values and we've talked about mindset. I'm going to invite you to think about, take those things together and think about your leadership vision. What will people be saying about you in 1 year from now? If you really focus on these areas, you put things down in writing, you make a vision board, whatever technique works for you, and you focus on your leadership skills, what will people be saying about you? And here's a formula, simple, that I think you can use, and it's based on the work you've already done. So simple enough, insert your name, is a leader who exemplifies, insert the value, insert the value, insert the value. So I'm giving you a maximum of 3, who has made an impact on me, and you're going to insert that impact. And that impact piece is really important. You can exemplify values all the time, right? But then the next step is really understanding as a leader, the impact that has on you, people around you, your work output, the organization, the company, the world as a whole. So think about the values as you identify them, and then the impact that has on those around you. And work on this and share it with your partner. Again, there's that plug for an accountability partner. You can find a spouse, significant other, friend, parent, child. Also, that's a big piece of the work that I do in my coaching practice. So you can also work with me one-on-one or in a group setting to help you work through these activities. So let's move now, just a quick refresh on the skill set. I know I named the 7 skills, but let's talk a little bit more about what you're going to learn, a learning objective for each one. So when it comes to self-awareness, you're going to learn how to turn awareness of your own strengths, weaknesses, growth opportunities, and blind spots into action. When it comes to resilience, you're going to learn how to recover quickly from challenges and expertly maneuver changes in the environment. Curiosity, you're going to learn how to formulate and ask key questions in order to assimilate information or learn something new or different. That relates, a lot of these relate back to our mindsets, if you can think back to that. Nuanced thinking. This is the one that came up for me when I started to see in our world how there's so much right or wrong, yes or no, this or that. And the world and problem solving just does not work that way. We can't solve complex problems with one-word answers. So I decided to call it nuanced thinking, which is the ability to solve complex problems by consciously shifting one's thinking as the situation requires. And we'll look at some different thinking techniques to empower that skill. Inspiration and motivation. is all about being mentally stimulated and stimulating others to think or feel something and take action. Those go together. So it starts in you and then it's contagious. Sorry, that might not be a great choice of words in the time of COVID-19, but I think you get the idea. Initiative and accountability. Assessing and initiating things independently and taking responsibility for the outcome. And I've had a fair amount of pushback, if you will, on this. People asking me, well, doesn't somebody ultimately have to be accountable at the top? And I guess, sure, maybe. But imagine how much easier that person's job becomes if everyone's sharing that load. And certainly not last but not least, dialogue, how to engage in respectful conversation with other individuals that leads to mutual understanding. So these are the outcomes you can expect to experience when you continue through all the modules, whether you work on your own, whether you work with me, or whether you choose to bring this into your company or an organization, and we do facilitated coursework together as teams. So shifting gears a little bit, I'd like to pause, take a breath, and share this quote with you. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. And this is a great transition into behaviors and habits. So there's lots of wording out here, lots of lingo. Some people ask me, what's the difference between behaviors or traits? Well, behaviors can be changed. Traits are inherent. So that's why I'm choosing to use the word behavior. They are single actions. They are usually in response to a stimulus. Behaviors are done consciously, and habits are done sub or less consciously. Behaviors are outputs of an individual to its environment, while habits are the inputs of the environment on the individual. So we're really going to work on how do we turn these leadership skills into habits, because that is also something I've seen missing. So many courses you go to, I'm sure, you're drinking from a fire hose, you get a lot of information, we do a little action planning at the end, but there's not a lot of follow-up. This system is built so before you walk out of the door, you will have built what I am borrowing the term as a habit stack from James Clear of Atomic Habits. You will walk out of the course in each module with your habit stack. So we talked a little bit about the difference between a behavior and a habit. And just as a reminder, behaviors are done consciously and habits are less conscious. So we got to start with the behaviors that we know about, the things that we know we do that we can recognize. And that is the source of the next activity I'm going to ask you to do. You've determined your values. You've written a vision statement. Now I want you just to brainstorm. Take a moment, pause this video, and make a list of any current behaviors that support your leadership vision, and make a list of any behaviors that detract from your leadership vision. So just make a list and write them down. In fact, I would encourage you to, wherever you're taking notes, write a line down the middle, make 2 columns, support on the left, detract on the right, and brainstorm. And don't worry about how many you have in each column. It's all good. Self-awareness is key. It's important to identify the behaviors that you're currently doing in support of and that detract from your goals. We have to start somewhere, and self-awareness is that place. So once you've done that, again, you can do this with your accountability partner. You've got your list, leave it. Okay, it's there. It's a piece of data. We're going to come back to it, and we're going to use it as the starting point to then figure out what are the habits that I want to build. And again, I mentioned the book Atomic Habits. If you don't have it already, get it. It's fantastic. It's been my Bible for changing things. And you can even see in the title, tiny changes, remarkable results. So some advice from the author is start with an incredibly small habit, something small, and then increase it in very small ways. And as you build up, break habits into chunks. So let's just say I want to start out by meditating 1 minute a day. And I'm going to do that every day, right after I pour my morning coffee or before I grab for my phone. And then before I know it, I might go from 1 minute to 5 to 15 to 20. I'm currently in the 1 minute stage. But once you build up, you can break it into chunks. And then when you slip, get back on track. Get back on track quickly. Don't skip more than 2 days. Be patient and stick to a pace you can sustain, and be compassionate with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. You're going to have setbacks, but get right back on it. So I told you I would ask you to keep that list handy, because in your next and final activity for this module, I would like you to select 2 behaviors from your list, 1 supporting and 1 detracting. And brainstorm, what's one thing you can do to solidify a behavior supporting your leadership vision and to weaken a behavior detracting from your leadership vision. You brought it into consciousness now, and now you're going to really work on, how do I optimize the impact of the things that are working for me? And how do I minimize the impact of the things that are not? So start small, just pick 2 things. What's one thing you can do to support your vision and to weaken or lessen the impact of something detracting from your vision? And I think that's enough for 1 module. So I've given you a lot to think about today in the kickoff module. This module acts as a foundation for every module we'll go through together from here. So where are we? We started with the program kickoff. Next up will be the self-awareness module. That's the next one that will drop, but you can take these modules in any order you'd like. Whatever works for you. In fact, that's how the program is built. I will work with a client to make an order, but if something happens and we need to change it, we change it. And because it's for leaders at all levels, there are people at different levels sitting side by side learning this together. So there's no lag time in, well, I wish my boss knew this, or when are the managers going to go through this training? We are doing it together. So you can drop in, you can drop out, you can put the modules in any order. But I do have, as I've said, a bias for the self-awareness module being one of the first ones that you do, because really everything starts there. Every advance, as Jung would say, starts with an advance in self-awareness. Okay, I've said it a few times already. I'll say it again. Create accountability for this. However you choose, pick a partner, make a commitment. As a result of what you learned today, write down right now, what are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do next week? And when you're ready to come back for the self-awareness module, just do this fun activity. I think it's fun. Ask 5 people what they admire about you as a leader and see what they say. Take it in, enjoy the experience, and I'll see you back here the next time we're together on our next module. If you'd like to stay connected with me or get connected with me, here are a few ways you can do that. You can get on my calendar using the link. You can call me and you can email me. And all my contact information is here on this slide for you to connect and us to stay connected. So please reach out. I'll look forward to hearing from you. Thanks and have a great day.